from Bel Air, Michigan to Amelia Island, Florida, from Las Vegas, Nevada to Skytop, Pennsylvania. Let's ride. We want to ride shotgun with you for the next hour, Talkin Truckin with Christian, Kumar, and Doty. How's it going, everybody?
What's up, Coom?
Good. Did you just do
Kumar.
your last vacation spots?
Yeah, those are all my vacation spots. So, yeah, you're welcome. So, I guess joining us today on the show are the usual. We got Christian, Joel, Mike. Mike's back. Good to see him. We got Ray. Where you at, Ray?
I'm at home, San Antonio.
Back in the pool.
Nice.
Yeah,
Jim Mackey, where you at?
I'm in Birmingham.
Ooh, I can.
Barely hear him, but Birmingham is what came.
Birmingham, Alabama.
Is there a pool there?
We got Nate. Where you at, Nate?
Near McEwen, Tennessee.
And we got Kevin. Where you at? No, he's
Kevin
not.
went to
I lied.
help his dad adjust his clutch, so he'll be on in a few minutes. If not,
Yep. I forgot about that. But and also we got a special guest, Henry Albert's back. Henry Albert Einstein of Team Run Smart.
Yeah, Henry,
He
that's
is-
their name for you, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big pedestal to fall off of.
I don't think he'll mind. He's dead.
All right. So today we got, I figured we'd do some trucking news. Not sure if we want to do that first or if we want to get into it with Henry. What do you think, Christian?
Yeah, I'd say let's review some trucking news, and then we'll split over to Henry, do some sports and some marketing questions.
Yeah, let's do it. On to you, Ian.
All right. We got a couple news things here going on. I think you guys have heard about the border crisis, not that one. The issues with the inspections down on the southern border. They're saying that they've lost a lot of money with this whole thing. They have to do all these extra inspections. We went over a little bit last week, but one of those bridges down there was losing $202 million a day, which is pretty absolutely insane. So wanted to touch on that. There is a little bit of issue down there. People are very upset, and it's going to be some political fodder for the cannons down there in Texas this election. Moving on. Over to the ports, a little bit more port stuff going on. Los Angeles is seeing a lot of freight moving back through there again. It has really shot up going into the summer here. So I'm really hoping that this kind of heats California up. Christian, you see anything happening with this? I mean,
They said that the market's tightened up over there, but they're not showing it in the rates yet. So
right.
They didn't expect any kind of great swell. That was from that. I think it was the same FreightWaves article that you're posting.
Mhm.
With the volume remains strong to run in the produce season article. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it like everybody else would. I mean, there are some other good indicators here. Outbound tender volume index for dry vans rose like 3.56% week over week. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, we are looking to head in the right direction here. So,
Yep.
On with the ports. Yeah, here's Port Los Angeles. Not too much going on here as it was last year, but I wanted to go over here to China to kind of talk a little bit about that. I don't know if you guys have heard much of what's going on in Shanghai, but they have some major lockdowns going on. So this is Hong Kong. There's pretty healthy in and output there, but we come up here to Shanghai, and it is a gigantic mess of all these ships just waiting to get into the port. They're just completely locked down, and here's a good graph to show you. Ships waiting to load or discharge at Shanghai. So it has just skyrocketed, and that is an extremely major port worldwide. So I feel like we're going to be seeing a little bit possibly of a disturbance of that in the market.
Now, are they on a zero basis where if they have any positive cases at all, they shut it down?
Pretty much. Yeah, that's what they're going for. I mean, and we don't really know what the situation is because of how in the dark they have it over there. But yeah, that is what's going on. They've just completely shut down everything. You can't go to work, can't go anywhere. Can't even go out to get food. So they've completely shut down. and hopefully more cities in China don't follow. But you never know what's going to happen over there. So it's definitely something that we'll keep an eye on and see what happens there in the future. Other than that, I mean, it was kind of a slow week for any of those major news issues. There was something about hours of service in Georgia, but we won't touch too much on that. The governor has receded some of the hours of service, but that won't affect us anyways because we won't be able to use those. So, other than that, that's it for the news.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Short news week, I guess. Not much happening out there?
It was definitely short, yeah.
All right. Well, so I guess we'll get into it
Christian.
with...
Say it, Christian.
Go ahead, Christian.
What about the turn signal?
I can see your face.
The office is about to turn.
It's okay. Kumar, you got my FedEx tracking number that Amy sent you?
Mm-hmm. I got it.
I used to listen to her drive to work in Kentucky every day when we'd talk on the phone going to our offices because we both had a little bit of a commute. And I don't know what it is about her Yukon or whatever it was. Yeah, I guess it was Yukon. And that turn signal would just click like that all the time. I'm like, my God, can you please not use your turn signal when we're talking? It's the loudest thing ever.
It's like a form of torture.
That's right.
Yeah, drive like they do in Texas. Don't use your turn signal.
Mm-hmm.
Put your hand out the window.
That's what I believe in.
You got spider webs all over it.
All right, so yeah, let's get into it with Henry Albert. How's it going, Henry?
Doing great. How are y'all doing?
Very good.
Pretty
We're
good.
doing good. Where are you at, Henry?
Montgomery, Alabama.
Nice.
And you're driving now, right? That's the reason you're not on screen. You are actually driving.
Yes.
Okay.
Where are you headed to?
Charlotte.
I gotcha. So you probably had a lot of buzz going on with the questions with the fuel since last time that we talked.
Yeah, my phone's gotten real popular since fuel went up.
So
Really?
you would
I'd
send
like
me
to
your.
talk about today.
You said you
You
do.
know, when are we going to take fuel prices really seriously?
Right.
Not just trucking, people in general.
Mm-hmm.
Are you asking me to get rid of my V10 Excursion? Is it gets 11 miles to the gallon, whether I'm pulling empty or pulling 10,000 pounds?
Wow.
Not necessarily, but you know, it's funny. The last time fuel went really high and it was nipping up there around $4, people started driving really reasonably. And this time, I haven't seen a change. In fact, seeing the fatality rates are going up for everybody except for trucking and older people when I did the research on it. And it was kind of funny. Me and my wife, we had walked from the truck stop over to do some grocery shopping, and sitting there in line was all these SUVs with one person idling, sitting in a drive-through to get coffee that cost more per gallon than the fuel they were wasting sitting there in the drive-through. And yet, if you talk to each one of them, they'd be telling you how outraged they are about fuel prices. To me, they don't look like they're outraged.
Right. That's a good point.
Mad, but don't want to do anything about it.
Don't go inside to get their coffee.
Yeah, that's a
Really
good
what
point.
it comes down to.
What do you think the reasoning behind that is? I mean, we're in a whole different mentality right now. I believe, and it's hard to gauge, but yeah, I see that everywhere too. You're right about that.
So I remember, I'm old enough now that you have a perspective on it. And I remember my parents, they had this really cool 68 Torino GT fastback with a 428 engine in it. And
Wow.
it was cool to look at. It was really hot to sit in the back seat of that black car with that rear fastback window baking you as a kid. But it was a cool car, right? And fuel went up crazy, and they traded that on a 71 Pinto. Really is exciting.
That's the one where
and I remember the fuel lines with people pushing the cars in line at fuel because people were running out of fuel
Wow.
waiting in line. And then things eased up a little bit, and they got their second car, which was a 73 Ford Mustang Mach 1. Now, they didn't go crazy on the engine. It was only '73 hit, and they traded that '73 Mustang in on a
Mustang 2.
wagon.
Didn't you remember when the Mustangs 2 came out? That's like a mule. It's a mule stang.
Right. So then things eased up, and the populace migrated towards pickup trucks, SUVs, and vans, full size in all of them. And it's like we're addicted to oil, and to me, we get played like any drug dealer does. If we stop using as much of it, the price comes down, then we're like, jump back in on it. It's like we get free samples or something. And we keep repeating the same cycle, which to me is sort of like the definition of insanity on it. And mind you, I like performance cars. I used to race stock cars, all that stuff, right? So I'm as much as part of the problem as anyone.
Hey, Henry, can I ask you a question real quick? Hey, when you were in that Torino and the Pinto and the Mustang, how big was your family? Were you an only child?
No, 5. There was 5 of us, but we were little kids yet. So
yeah, okay.
I still remember, though, my mom, my dad, my grandfather, and us 3 kids went on vacation in that '71 Pinto sedan. And I still remember at the end of the trip, when we got there, my grandfather saying, "I think I have a toothache in my leg."
You know what's so funny too is you mentioned that it's like, so I have an F-150. It's got a 6-inch lift on it, big old tires, 4x4 and 4-door, the crew cab. And my wife used to love driving that truck. She'd always drive it, because whenever I'm gone, basically she's got to put money in that gas tank out of her own pocket, right? And now she won't touch it. She's all like, yeah, that truck takes about $100 to fill up. She won't even touch it. It just sits in the driveway ever since, until I come home, I'm the only one that drives it. She won't even touch it now. She's like, I'm not going to put fuel in that thing.
When you get down that road, I have a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon.
Oh, man, those are nice.
Really? Yeah, but it only gets about 3 more miles to the gallon than my semi-truck.
Yeah. Yeah, my truck doesn't get any fuel mileage at all. If anything, it does about maybe 12 miles per gallon, somewhere around there. If the wind is blowing and if I got a tailwind.
You want to hear something crazy, Ray? My truck. You've seen my truck at the.
Yeah. Oh, but you got that EcoBoost with the turbos, man. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I love the EcoBoost too, but miles per gallon wise, I only get maybe 14, 13. Actually going up there was the first time when I drove up there, I did the miles per gallon. And when I got up there, I was like, that's got to be wrong. It had to have got better. And I did it on the way back, and no, I was right there about 13, something like that.
I got about 12 miles per gallon all the way to Florida. We drove ours to Florida too, and it was about 12 miles per gallon. We had a tailwind all the way to Florida.
I get 11.9 is the best I've ever gotten in the excursion on a tank. If I drive it like I should drive it, it's 10.5, and that's going an hour to Roanoke and back every day. It's not easy on gas.
Well, so my little dirt bike, I got 100 miles per gallon the other week out of it. So
it got rained on, dude.
Yeah, might have got a little wet, but it was worth it.
It's amazing when you think about it, having the age to remember the muscle cars and all that. And today, almost every vehicle on the road has horsepower that rivals what most of the muscle cars had from the early 70s. And
that's true.
The fuel mileage they're getting for the amount of power they're putting out is miraculous. But the thing of it is, we only need about 50 horsepower to move a car down the road. I remember I used to pull my race car with a 350 that had 165 horsepower, and we got everywhere we were going. If we didn't keep increasing the power, we could probably have 50, 60 mile to the gallon cars. And then we don't have a fuel problem anymore.
Yeah. You know what's insane too is these Tesla electric cars, they're doing like 0 to 60 in like less than 3 seconds. That's amazing. And no noise.
Yes.
You can't hear him.
Energy's energy. You know, when you get, if you do the math on it, if you compare it to the weight of a semi truck, a car would only need about 25 horsepower. My gosh, most people's lawnmower has more horsepower than that.
We're addicted to power, aren't we?
Yep.
Yes, which you got to pay a price for it, and really we're paying a big price for it. Now, mind you, I'm not one out here hugging the trees and all that, but when you think about responsibly, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's truck specs, all of us are in trucking where fuel's one of our most major costs. And yet you still see people in the trucking industry with the specs and how they got the truck set up. It looked like their goal was to burn as much fuel as possible. It just makes no sense.
So I'm illiterate when it comes to politics and the reason fuel is how high it is. I guess I have a couple questions. One would be what is causing fuel prices to be this high? And number two, when does everyone think they'll come down?
Well,
Or
this
if
is supposed to be a non-political show. So.
I think a clarification of politics is different than taking a side, right? Yeah, I think he's asking.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone, you can
Politics
blame
aside.
one person, but I don't think it's
Inflation.
that, solely. But yeah, like what?
I'll take that one. It's easy. I think it'll come down when we start using less.
Yeah, that's also a big factor. Yeah.
When demand drops.
Yeah.
I did a blog a while ago at Team Run Smart that was 1 gallon, and I forget the exact numbers, but I checked how many registered drivers there are just in the United States, and if each driver, through their efforts, managed to save 1 gallon of fuel a week, 1 gallon of fuel a week, 1 gallon be easy to, right? On average.
So.
Yeah.
1 gallon
it should be.
equals 347 Olympic-sized swimming pools full of fuel. And I forget how many super tankers that equated to.
Wow.
You know, when you think about it in that perspective, 1 gallon, and most of us could do more than 1 gallon without batting an eye.
Yeah. See, and I used to work in the oil fields. I've done a lot of years working on the oil fields, and just not to get political, but we knew if there was a Republican in office, we had a job. If there was a Democrat in office, we're looking for other work because we're going to get laid off, and it happened all the time. And here in Texas, there's a big industry in oil fields, so it's just the way it is, without causing.
I think some of that's changed now. I mean, you have electric cars entering the market, so you have, according to your model, right, a Democrat in office, and there's been a lot of legislation that, regardless of leases and everything else, that they're not pumping. But it's a large investment to get into the energy, and it's a huge risk if it doesn't sustain itself over time for a payoff. If I'm an oil guy now, and I say, hey, even if regulations are lifted, I'm not sure I'm getting in because you have so many electric cars. You have Ford that's pushing a majority of their money that direction. You have Teslas coming out, electric trucks, and everything else. You've got and the electric Peterbilt's out. So everything's pushing that direction. So consumption's going to be reduced at some point, and it really depends on how and the subsidies to push it out, charging stations, all the things we discussed. I don't think I would roll the dice. If I had the money in my pocket. Would I want to spend millions of dollars setting up rigs and everything else on the fact that this could be a very short-term game?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
and you're right also about the one of the things I think about as well is when there's a problem, the free market will solve it, but you got to give them time to solve it, and we are working towards that. Look at the electric car, all the electric. Somebody taking a salt or something. Well, but yeah, I mean that the free market will solve the problem, but it hurts us when government jumps before they jump the gun and they mandate everything before the free market can actually solve the problem.
Yeah, that's crony capitalism. It's different than capitalism. It looks the same, except it's not. Right.
And water always finds its own level.
Yeah.
Again, that's why they call you Henry Albert Einstein.
So Henry, well, I guess what do you think about like the Tesla semis? Have you looked into that at all?
Electric vehicles. Let's get into that. I mean, we know it'll work, but energy is energy. So the main thing is how much can it store on board, and is that the answer, right? So trains, every train that goes down the tracks, whether it's a diesel or running off the gantries, is running through electric motors. We know how efficient electric forklifts are and pallet jacks compared to their internal combustion counterparts, right? So having a reliable electric engine should be fairly maintenance free because there's not a lot going on. There's a lot less moving parts than there are having a reciprocating engine in any given vehicle. So will it work? No reason it wouldn't work and be reliable. The big thing is the energy storage of said units.
Oh, okay.
Do you think could they incorporate some type of? I think I said this last time, but you think they can incorporate some type of? And I doubt they would, especially Tesla, but some type of generator that I know they have it incorporated into the the brakes that charge, somewhat, but obviously that's not enough. But what about some type of generator? Why not incorporate a diesel generator to charge it while you drive or something, or while you're parked? Or
to me, what I'd like to see along that line is to just run the trucks like they do a train. The diesel engine is a generator. There is no battery. It's infinitely variable transmission. You do away with the transmission, the rear differentials, the drive shaft, the transmission, and the engine's simply generating electricity. And in doing that, you could do it with a lot smaller engine because there'd be no space between gears because you wouldn't be going through gearing anymore.
Doty, didn't you come up with the idea of running an APU on the truck just to charge your batteries while you're rolling down the road?
Mm-hmm.
If in an electric truck, that was actually a good idea.
Seems like no electric company would put anything gas or diesel on their truck to do that. I don't think, but it seems like something like that would work. Aside from, I don't know what the additional weight would be and all the moving parts, but I would think you could.
It's funny that you say that with the electric companies, right? And the electric companies are the people they're suggesting be the very last to ever have electric trucks.
Why is that? Because of the grid?
Because if the grid's down and they need to fix it with the trucks, they need electric. And if the grid's down,
they can't.
Which I thought was ironic. It was a smart engineer, another engineer friend of mine up in Michigan. At the end of the day, energy is energy. It takes X amount of energy to get something from point A to point B, whether you're doing it with electric, wind, whatever you're doing it. It takes X amount of energy to move something. And it's somewhat, I think, from an emissions standpoint, it would probably be better than where we are now because it would put all the emissions onus over on the power companies, and there's a lot less power plants than there are individual, trucks, cars, and everything else. So from an emissions standpoint, they could probably regulate that a lot better than on, every individual vehicle. The other thing that was put to me by the one other engineer was that, electric vehicles, a lot of it would come from coal, but what if I told you I had a system that every year it was in operation got cleaner than it was the year it was before? What would be happening as they find alternate sources of energy? And that was a good point to be taken.
I don't.
Your brain's melting over there.
But right now, Texas don't have enough in their grid if it gets cold out. So,
that's usually the kind of the example I get is we had that freeze out there that had Texas, and we had a guy sitting around for a full week in a truck. No power, shippers and receivers were down, water was running scarce, food, things like that. Your house is down for 3 days and you run the car, you're not going anywhere for a while. I hate to say it, but we have built everything on our engine's combustion and compression, and I mean we may get away from it at some point, but I don't think it'll be completely. And if it is, then I'm not sure that's the world I want to live in.
Right.
I know. I like watching dinosaur fly throughout at the exhaust pipe at a high rate of speed, melting the tires off of vehicles. That's.
And the electric vehicles will work. The biggest thing is the infrastructure to recharge them, especially for over the road drivers. I think that's the toughest part. But they're coming.
Personally, I think what's going to be the answer is to not recharge them. Get there, that the battery would drop out of the bottom of the truck and a new one would go in, and they'd credit you whatever charge was left in it, and you took off with a fresh battery. If you did it that way, you could probably refuel faster than we can now.
So it'd be kind of like
those batteries
like a propane
are huge, though.
system.
Those batteries. I think those battery systems on the trucks are huge, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
AAA batteries?
You need near the range if you did that, and it could be, like a larger version of how my stepson's racing remote control cars. Much like you swap out batteries in them.
Yeah.
Boop, off you go.
Yeah.
So he's running electric cars or not gas?
Electric, yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Those things are super quick. Those electric RCs. Those things. You can't even see them when they go.
Yeah, my neighbor used to have one, and he would fly it down the street all the time. I'm like, I don't even know how you can control that thing. It's going insane. But yeah, go ahead, Henry.
I had read somewhere, and you got to wonder where we'd be in an alternate universe of things if things had gone in parallel. And I read somewhere a while ago, and I've never been able to find it again. But apparently, in this article, there was a lot of talk of the first people's car in our country, the Model T. That there was a lot of talk between Henry Ford and another friend he had, Thomas Edison, making the Model T electric instead of an internal combustion engine. Well, you got to wonder where we would be in an alternate universe if that had have happened, right? It came down to there wasn't infrastructure for either one at that time. Horses still were ruling the world. So you got to wonder, and the electric motor, as it may be, predates the internal combustion engine by something like 20 years. So the electric, we know how reliable it is. We see it all around us. Look how long a fan will run, or a drill, or a circular saw, whatever it may be. Even look at cordless drills. My gosh, I remember when I was younger, when they first came out with them, those first ones were no good at all. But now you hardly want to have a cord with a drill.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Henry, I appreciate you joining us. Hopefully you'll stick around for the show and play around with us a little bit, if that's cool by you.
Yeah, I'll stick around with you at least up till break.
All right. What are you thinking about next, Coom?
You want to go into sports, Joel?
Yeah. The wide world of sports with Joel Howe.
The wild world? You mean United States? What's up, guys? Welcome back, no commercial, to the sports show that talks about speed traps, supply chains, and pull pumps. I am your host, Joel Howe. And around the league, here we are, third week of April, going around to some football. Not a lot going on in the NFL. We do have the draft coming up next Thursday. That'll be Thursday through Saturday. We will hit on that next week. I know Russ likes to be a part of that, so we'll make most of the show about the draft next week. The Chiefs did trade superstar Tyreek Hill for 5 draft picks to the Dolphins, if you're into that. Let's see, Cooper Kupp looking for a deal with the Rams, and Deshaun Watson works out with the Browns. Baker Mayfield did not. Those were involuntary workouts. That's all that's going on in the NFL this week. The USFL opened up last week. I got to say, in my opinion, it was kind of bad. The most obnoxious thing that I recall is the players being mic'd over the PA system. I watched the game, and you could hear everything that quarterback was cursing and not cursing during the play, all throughout the stadium of about 50 fans. That was pretty bad. But in the opening weekend, Birmingham won their game against the New Jersey Generals, 28-24. Houston Gamblers, 17. Michigan Panthers, 12. New Orleans Breakers, 23. Philadelphia, 17. Tampa Bay Bandits, 17. And Pittsburgh Maulers, 3. Moving over into baseball. As I stated last week, early in the season, first week over in the American League East, currently Boston and the New York Yankees tied at 6-5. In the Central, Chicago White Sox at 6-3. And out west, the Angels and Oakland are both 7-5. In the National League East, the Mets are 9-3. In the Central, St. Louis 6-3. And out west, Colorado Rockies are 8-3. Over to the NHL, the playoffs start May 2nd. Top four, still the top four dogs: Florida Panthers, the Carolina Hurricanes, Colorado Avalanche, and the Calgary Flames. Over in the NBA, playoffs started. The number 8 Atlanta Hawks lost to the number 1 seed Miami Heat. Miami with a 2-0 lead in that series. Best 4 out of 7. Boston leading Brooklyn 1-0 in their series. And Milwaukee Bucks leading the Bulls 1-0 in their series. And 76ers leading Toronto 2-0 in their series. That's the East. Out west, New Orleans and Phoenix split at 1 game apiece. Minnesota and Memphis split 1 game apiece. Denver and Golden State. Golden State leads 2-0. And Dallas, Utah split at 1 game apiece. Over in golf, this weekend, the 21st through the 20th, tomorrow through Sunday, the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. That is a $8.3 million purse. Over in NASCAR, this weekend, the 24th, big race down in Talladega 500. The Cup standings currently at number 5, Kyle Larson. Number 4, Ross Chastain. Number 3, Kyle Busch. Number 2, Alex Bowman. Number 1 is William Byron currently. And that is about all there is to sports here the third week of April, unless anyone has any comments. Kumar, you got anything in MMA, any boxing, anything going on?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, other than just like outside of MMA news, kind of MMA news, but outside of MMA, outside of the octagon, I should say. There we go.
Clay Guida, is that his name? The guy with the long hair?
Yeah.
He's on the card this weekend.
Oh, he's a good fighter.
Yeah.
He's
I
wild.
saw him live.
I get them mixed up. There's Bellator, there's UFC, there's like 3 different leagues. And
This one's UFC.
Yeah. Clay Guida, it's funny. He likes to get slapped in the face a lot. Like before his fights, like to get him psyched up. So like you'll see his cornermen just slapping him in the face. And it's pretty priceless.
And he belches between rounds really big too.
Oh yeah, I saw
Barstool's Rough and Rowdy's the best.
Oh, yes.
Have you guys seen this?
Have you watched it?
I've seen clips. I haven't ordered it or watched the whole thing, but it's hilarious watching some of the clips of those guys fight. There's some
you got to watch
characters
it
in there.
live.
We're
Next
gonna
time
be in West Virginia and do this, right?
They build up the feuds like 2 and 3 months.
Yeah.
And
Party at my house. Come over.
Logan Paul broke his hand on a boxing video game in Germany last week.
What? Really?
Yep.
He's not the better one anyway, so you know.
So I was doing the virtual boxing at my house, and I uppercutted my fan light and busted the light everywhere.
You know, you're supposed to go. You're on an Oculus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they have a perimeter. You don't check the perimeter before you box.
No, I was in the perimeter.
You hit the guy at the bar.
I punched up, and my
Too
ceiling
high.
where I was at is low, and so the light on the ceiling, I punched the light bulb.
That's funny.
That's great.
That's dangerous. You got to start
That thing's
making
pretty
like
fun, though.
virtual
I haven't played
reality
it in a while.
rooms.
That thing's
Really?
really fun.
What's like your
Great
your
workout.
What's your favorite game on there?
The boxing and the golf.
Golf. Ooh, I would love to play the
Fishing's got to be awesome.
The golf. Yeah, I haven't tried that, but the golf is pretty. I mean, I slice it just like in real life. So I mean, pretty.
Just like in
awesome.
real life.
It's kind of irritating that I'm still slicing in a game, but whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like when you're dreaming about work and then you wake up and you're like, wow, I could have been dreaming about something else.
Yeah.
I don't think I've dreamed about work very often.
The day being over.
All right. Well, do we have questions for me?
Yes, we do. You want to do that?
Let's do it.
You want to do that, or you want to do market update? How do you?
Oh
want to
yeah,
do it?
yeah. I completely forgot. Yeah, let's do market update and then we'll close it out with some.
Yeah, the market
Questions
sucks
with
less
me.
this week. That's not my
Yeah, I
only
did notice
contribution,
that.
but that's one of them. Yeah, it does suck less this week.
Hear it.
What about you, Mike? What are you seeing?
Well, I was out those few days, but that's the first thing I noticed Tuesday when I was booking again it was a lot better this week than last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Immediately I noticed that. So, looks like Texas. I think some of the border towns are going to be heating up. Auto Parts, Laredo,
Mhm.
I think is going to be start doing well.
Yeah, I kind of have seen like a whole revival of the South right now with rates.
Yeah, I mean, if California catches fire at the same time Texas and Florida warms up a little bit, it could get a little exciting on the South side. You know, you still have money in Ohio going to the Northeast and all, but it would be nice to end up having something where guys prefer to drive, warm up for a while.
Summertime.
Right, yeah, at 110
Simple
degrees,
stuff.
so you're blowing tires and your AC's not working, but outside of that, it's a good time. I do have a couple things put together if we want to get to that in a minute too,
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
or now,
We're
whatever.
ready.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Let's see here. I'm working on a single screen, so this is going to take a second for me to find where it is. Like I said, it's going to take a while. So yeah, I think you're very patient. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we can just keep that Jeopardy music. Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
We can take a pause in the action.
I
real
have
quick.
noticed Texas doing a little bit better too.
Yeah, we did cover that a little bit last week as far as how Texas is doing. You guys can see this now, right?
Yep.
I'm working remotely. We've got our office being demoed, and so you're going to see an old presentation style. There's a pallet wall behind me, so we're. It's funny because Brian in my office always says, "Man, I feel like I live in a prison," and like I heard that for probably the first year, thinking, "Man, I don't think he likes this job." And then we went to lunch one time. I'm like, "Man, you really got to stop saying that." Like, it's one thing I was like, "All right, man, that's good." I didn't know he was talking about the walls of the office because they're cinder block. He felt like he was living in a prison. So
I could see that actually thinking about it now. That
Yeah,
makes
well,
sense.
Not where he really
yeah,
was.
because you've been there. So, and then you go back to the office on my side, and it's like, we just did that addition. I was like, I guess we got to do something on this other side.
Not even the same building. It looks like.
Maybe take the bars off the window too.
Actually, the funny
gurney in
thing,
there.
I'll show you guys some pictures when we were there. It actually did have the square windows and one AC unit, and that was it. It was a concrete floor.
Oh my
So
god.
it didn't have HVAC. It was all oil heat. It was pretty ghetto.
wow.
But
Dungeon.
so we'll get started here on occupancy-based revenue report. The formulas did not calculate properly for the occupancy-based revenue on the left-hand side or the over-under, so I shortened it a bit. But what we'll go through is basically 4 drivers, dry van drivers, and you're going to see that the first driver drove into Ohio, then delivered into Michigan, Pennsylvania, short run back over to Ohio, then did our customers' freight for a Monday delivery. A lot of times, depending if it's single, double stop, or if it's advantageous, we can still get a Tuesday drop, which would have put them over the 9,000. But that Strasburg apparently didn't deliver until Wednesday for the revenue for that. Driver B, a little different route. You figure it went Minnesota to Michigan, and then Indiana. Then he got pushed up through Maine. From Michigan from there. So he stayed really within Michigan and Minnesota. Driver C lives out in Montana. He did go out that direction. It was from Macungie, Pennsylvania, and then eventually it delivered in Missoula, Montana. And this bar's in the way of my last one. And then the last one was Laredo, Texas to Amsterdam, New York. It was 2 runs. I'm not sure what happened with Tuesday. Oh, that's right. He got stuck. He got stuck in traffic as well. Didn't do a bad job. All in all, you're looking at roughly $8,000 to $9,000 weeks in a dry van. The one thing that you'll see that's here consistent again is everyone is occupied. There's 100% occupancy through the board for these guys. The guys that are generally towards the top of the board have that. These are dry van equipment. I did not incorporate different styles of equipment. They were all dry van. But they're running basically 27 to 3,100 miles this week, and they're doing it all miles between 249 to 325. The 249 is a self-dispatch. He does a great job at it, but he does manage himself. And his cent per mile is typically a little less, but how he runs, a lot like the way that y'all's fleet run, is a little higher of a gross revenue. Not the case this week. But still nonetheless. So this is the delivery map. If you look at it, we typically would be right here in the Pennsylvania to South Carolina Mid-Atlantic. We changed it up a good bit. Our top performers were generally doing the Ohio to Northeast if it's in a dry van. We had someone go out to Montana. Then we had Texas up to New York. And then the last one, we had just 4 states, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. So we're not driving all over the country. We are seeing more of our trucks being sent down towards Texas and that area, according to what we talked about last week.
Huh.
Still sounds like someone sawing or whittling on a
Yeah,
blade
it
somewhere.
does. I can hear that now.
It was pretty neat. As we're
Breaking
going
out
through
a
our
channel.
office, we made a couple changes. And with those changes in the office, I uncovered a note that my mother had brought in. You can see it was stapled to an old cubicle. The one thing about my mom is, like, it's really hard to get under her skin or change who she is. And so when she would come into the office, especially in my office, there was no cussing. No one ever really got out of hand or angry. So it was a really neat office setting for several years when she worked for me. And she had this written down. I thought it was something to come back to. I think there's different impressions that people lay on us that we work with. Some favorable. Obviously, there's always going to be some that are unfavorable. But I do miss working with my mother. She's fully retired now. I've tried to pull her out of retirement, and she just continues to tell me no. But people are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. I love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of being selfish. Ulterior motives, do good anyways. If you are successful, you will win false friends and true enemies, but succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow, but do good anyway. Honesty and frankness will make you vulnerable. Be honest and be frank anyway. The biggest person with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest person with the smallest mind. Think big anyways. What you can spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build it anyways. And so it talks about how people really may attack the people that help them, and make sure you give the world the best that you have. And you might get kicked in the teeth, but give the world the best you have anyways. And so this was really cool to run across. I hadn't seen it. I kind of forgot it even existed. But for a while, it was right there in front of me. So regardless of any phone call I was having, it was a pretty good reference. And I feel like it's a really good, if you had to describe my mom's character, that's where it's at. Someone else, when we talk about character, is the guy on the show here. Henry, I don't know if you saw last week's show or not. If you notice, we rearranged things behind my desk. Put Teddy Roosevelt and Calvin Coolidge up because those are two of my favorite presidents for different reasons. But I also have your shirt and your tie that's back there behind it. I don't know if, well, you can't see it now because you're not on screen. But when you get a chance, Henry Albert, the gold tie standard, I think it's very important, as we talked about a little bit last week, that the industry changed so much over time, with different movies and things that came out that changed the persona and what people believe truckers were. And it's really cool, as I'm seeing guys that I've worked with 6, 7, 8 years, to watch them cultivate themselves into being professional drivers. It doesn't mean that we don't see, I'm not talking about clothing and apparel so much here, although that is important as well. But I'm talking about the way that they pass on information to the people behind them. And whether they're picking up a trailer and they see somebody that might be struggling with something, or they're just talking inside the parking lot. Everybody still here?
We're still here. Preach.
Right. Everybody was still. I heard a beep, and I'm like, oh, did we lose the internet again?
I saw again.
Yeah, so it's really neat, and I have to applaud everybody that's on the show. I can't tell you the number of times that I hear about the time that Ray or Kevin or anybody, even Nate, are being called upon and not being paid for it. Right, you're doing it for the professional fortitude to make sure you're pushing the fleet forward and making everyone a better driver. So, Henry, I applaud you. I'm not wearing a tie. And it's been a long time since I've done it, unless I visit a bank or we go out and let Russ buy dinner somewhere in Roanoke. And it was really neat because you can't see it on that shirt, but it talks about a lot of the hard work and how it wears you down, because there's a seatbelt mark on that blue shirt, and it's pretty well worn on there. So, Henry, I always appreciate you being available through the years for both some boneheaded questions that I have, as well as being on the show and walking us forward. So this next one is, where is Russ? I thought I'd take a minute. Russ always talks about Ray and how he's home all the time. So I said, a guy that I haven't seen in quite some time would be Russ. I also think it's important that we discuss Russ's occupancy report, which we'll get to here in a brief moment.
He's on the run.
He is. Yeah, apparently he's on the run. But I wanted to ask you guys, what is your definition of time off? And to follow that up, do you prefer to take all your time off at once? Or do you like to break it out over time? So we have different people in my office that do that differently. What do you guys think the definition of time off is, and how do you prefer to take your time off?
Well, for me,
it's my draw.
Okay, so when I was a custodian, I didn't care. Like, I would take off whenever, but I also didn't care so much about the job. I did my best, but I was pretty lackadaisical on taking off. But now that I'm here, I don't want to miss a single day. I take one vacation a year usually, and so I kind of try and that's my time off. And that's just me. I just really enjoy what I do now, so I have no problem coming into work every day. And we can also work from home sometimes, which is nice. So like when I am feeling under the weather, it is nice to still be able to work and contribute. But yeah, I usually basically, once a year, 1 week a year. And
do you plan that week? I mean, is it, hey, I'm going to take a trip here and hike here and things that you want to see, or is it just, I just need to decompress?
Oh, I plan it like probably a year in advance. I go on vacation up north every year, so we usually, book a cabin and everything a year in advance. So I know well ahead when I'm taking my next vacation.
What about you, Joel? Do you take any time off?
Not lately. It's usually family-related stuff. For example, when I went out to see my kids, they live out in Washington, that kind of thing. I'll make
state or DC?
State.
Holy smokes! Sorry.
Yeah, it's a long story. But, no, not too often. No.
Well, I know, Mike, you don't get any time off because you decided to buy another business and work. When you take off one business, you're just working half that day.
Yeah. I try to cut out about 5 or 6 from trucking now and do the other thing. But it seems like when if I take like a week off, I feel like, I don't know, for me, I feel like I come back and I'm lost a little bit. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
But I might go down to my brother's this year for a day or two, but I don't think I'm going to take a week off. I might take a day or two off here or there, but
got to stay on top of those kids at the bait shop too, right?
Yeah. No, they're
the game warden
plugging away.
I saw that.
It was funny because I got some shirts in, for work shirts for them, and they're like, I need 7, one for each day. I said, well, hold on a minute. You guys just rearranged your schedule so you each get 2 days off now. You only get 5 shirts.
Yeah. I guess they don't do the laundry but once a week either.
Yeah, exactly. At first I was trying to only give them 3. Hey man, you guys got to do laundry more. But
and Jim, you go home infrequently, correct? You stay out on the road almost 30 days before you go home.
I did this time. Typically, I'll go out for 2 or 3 weeks, then I'll go home 3 to 5 days, and do it again. You see, when I go home, it's a different kind of
Hey, Jim.
because my brother always puts me busy.
Hey, Jim, I think Yeah, I think I'm not sure if you're on your Bluetooth or not, but it's a little hard to hear you.
When I was running though, I would stay out for a couple months at a time, and then I'd go home for like a couple weeks at a time. That's how I ran. But part of that was because I lived in Florida. Coming in and out of Florida, I just couldn't figure out how to do that weekly and make the money I wanted to make, I guess you could say.
I tried to do 3 weeks, and then the last week pay the bills, and then it was like 18 on and 3 off.
I think I hear Jim coming back.
So does that sound any better?
That sounds a lot better. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I thought you fell in a well for a second.
Yeah, no, I restarted my
Lassie.
Bluetooth. I restarted my Bluetooth. Sometimes that helps. But anyway, what I was trying to say is that I'll go out for 2-3 weeks. This time it's been 4 weeks. But I go home, and it's a different kind of work because my brother always puts me busy doing stuff, helping him. So it's a break to get away from work to go home, but it's a break to get away from that to go back to work. So it's kind of different. He already gave me a heads up. You got to spray the weeds this time. So
I think I'd call in sick on that day.
Yeah.
Henry, you're still with us?
No,
Is Henry still on?
Yeah, I think he left.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say his schedule is probably unique because not only is he working, driving for efficiency of trucks and different fleets and what they can do, but then you imagine when he gets home, he has to prepare. But, Brian in my office used to just take Fridays off, and it really, it drops a burden on the rest of the team at times, but at the same time, it's not like everybody has to cover him for a full week. But I remember, he was just, every other week he was going playing softball somewhere, driving to West Virginia, Ohio, and he spread it out. And I'd never even thought of that because it's just, I guess I come from where my father worked for AT&T, and you had your set time off, and you took your vacation with your family, and you worked the rest of the year. You just enjoyed any holiday you could get. So here's a picture of where I don't know where Russ is in here, but he's here somewhere. You guys at home can find him. Let me know. So let's get on to Russ's occupancy. So here is April. And so the first 3 days, it was great. I mean, I know he was there on Wednesday when we record the show, and he was there Friday releasing it. So I figured, hey, great, he's there. The unfortunate part is he's really fallen apart. Since then, he's had 3 weeks off, and there's only a couple days left in the month.
And that's all we get is 3 weeks. So I
was here one of those days.
He's a little SOL.
Yeah. So, I mean, he can argue facts if he wants, I guess, but this is what I'm looking at. It may not be factual, but it's funny. So he has an 87% vacancy. So I sure hope Tina's picking up the slack. That's all I had there.
Oh, man. That's cool.
Yeah, and I saw that I saw the market recover as well. There's more negotiating going on versus this is your rate. I don't know whether you like it or not, but you're going to take it. So it's good to see because this time of year is usually where we get that bump. And the hesitation is if we don't get that bump, what's that mean for the rest of the year? I think we'll see things climb, but I don't think it's going to be exponential. I also believe that if we didn't have the fuel spikes at the same time rates were coming down, we'd be a lot less financially hurt from it, but we'd also be a lot less emotionally hurt because we felt like we're doing the same job, but we're getting compensated less. I think, when you look at the load to truck ratio we looked at last week, I mean, it's still 8-1. I mean, where else do you go somewhere that you have, a more of a need than you do a demand, right? As far as truck and freight goes, and something drops. So I think it's, we're all our firewall. We all got to hold the line there.
Yeah, and if you go back before COVID and look at the rates, where the rates were then, and especially if you're in one of our lease trucks, all your cost for your fixed cost are the same. Mm-hmm. Nothing's changed there. So and for the guys that own their trucks, they've seen a spike in parts and stuff, obviously.
Yeah. But
for the guys that are in the lease trucks, your fixed costs are pretty much the same. Your fuel costs are higher, but the rates before COVID, I mean, you were happy to get $2 a mile in a van,
Right. Yep.
So
and now we've had a 40-50 cent, spike in fuel, right, on a fuel surcharge basis, and we have, we're still $1 higher than we were. It's $3.20, $3.40. It's not $4 and $5. Pick what you want a mile, but I do believe that we may get back to that for a short period because I was looking at freight waves, but I didn't bring it because it's only a 1 week trend where we had that 3.5-4% outbound tender volume increase. But if it continues, then I'll pull that up as well. That shows you that we are rebounding and we are escalating back to where we should be. But
Good.
Our customers on the customer side are not paying us any less, right? I mean, it's just a contract rate plus fuel. So if you're in a situation like that, make sure you hold the brokers accountable. And if they say I don't have enough money or my customer only pays me so much, make another phone call.
Right.
Speaking of fuel, Christian, is there an equation for a fuel surcharge?
Yes, there is. There is an equation for the fuel surcharge.
Is it exact across the board? Like, do you just plug the numbers in?
No, it's not. So there's a basic premise around it for most. So most fuel charges have a base rate, like a minimum starting rate, which is the $1.26 to $1.50 normally. And every time you see the fuel go up at the pump, then it equates to a cent per mile. So for instance, a lot of them start out at like $1.26, and every 4 or 5 cents that it increases at the pump, it will increase 1 cent per mile. I can pull that up next week if you want. I'll make a note to go back over that. I went back. You might have been absent that week. I'll have to pull your occupancy report. But I can go back over that, and that shows the price at the pump versus the fuel surcharge and how it relates. And pretty neat. I'll go on the website for the Department of Information and Analysis and see if I can Energy Information Analysis and see if I can pull up for each. Maybe we'll do it in 1994. We'll do it in 2008. 2015, and then again now, so that way we can see the spikes and where the fuel surcharge lies. But to answer your question, there is a general premise around the fact that you have a base rate, and every time it goes up at the pump 4 or 5 cents, it's going to go up 1 cent per mile. So if it goes up 8 cents or what would be 10 cents, then it'd be 2 cents. And every time that incrementally increases, so does the fuel surcharge to help justification.
So if that base rate changed, that would bring the fuel, if that base rate went down, that would bring the fuel surcharge down, even though fuel may have gone up?
Yes, that's correct. And so a lot of times, different customers will have different rates for a base rate. I believe it was HP Hood, they had a lower one. When we work with Flat Group Semco, they had a higher one. So and a lot of brokers use about the same. It's within a cent or two. It does matter at the end of the year, by the way. It always matters because that's 100% of your money as opposed to a percentage of your money. But yes, and some companies are changing it right now. That's one thing you'll see is that the way they can be more advantageous with their pricing to the customer is to increase their line haul and decrease their fuel surcharge, or vice versa, depending on the customer that they have.
Gotcha.
I saw something the other day in an email that I shot an email out, and I got to shoot another one out because I saw something like that where fuel went up and the surcharge went down. So
yeah. Well, that's why I asked. I wanted the equation. What's the equation? Because it seems like the only way that would happen is if you change the actual equation. Not if you plug the numbers in the same formula, you should get.
If you have the same formula and you're not changing the baseline, you're not changing the common denominator, which is your base rate, it should always go up according to the fuel. It should all go down according to the fuel. It just depends. Are you doing on a 4 cent or a 5 cent increment? And it's difficult because, there's a local transportation company in Roanoke and they don't pay you 100% of fuel surcharge. They never have. I never understand it. I'm like, that's not your money. Like, if you need to, don't make fake math, right? Don't say I'm going to pay you 72% and 86% of 100% of fuel, right? Just say I'm going to pay you 72% or 75%, whatever it is, and 100% of fuel surcharge, and here's our calculator.
Right.
If I was that local company, and I'm not, and they are much larger, they have a lot of turnover, and a lot of the reason is when fuel fluctuates like it does, it hurts them when it goes up because they're getting a smaller portion of fuel surcharge, so they're not able to put that 100% of that money back in their pocket. Yeah, good question.
I was curious about that. I knew something had to change in the equation for that to happen. I knew it couldn't be the same.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll drop you a dime here tomorrow or later tonight. And I'll shoot something over on Excel sheet so you can plug it in and just change the base rate, and then it'll tell you based on what you put in. If you say, hey, I want it to be every 4 cents it changes or every 3 cents, but yeah, the only way it changes is either A, you change the base rate, or C, you change the pump rate, and the pump rate is that 4 to 5 cent indicator. Okay. Well, Russ is gone again, guys. So I think that if we have quorum. So let's take a vote again on who pays for the winning and losing truck. Anybody else not here today?
Quorum.
Zach's not here.
Yeah. That's perfect. All right. So we're doing $50 today. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
No
The
nays.
yays have it. I really hope I'm going to make sure I'm on every podcast, because I feel like if I'm gone, Russ is going to be like, all right, we're doing a $300 questions with Kumar today.
Right.
So, all right, so we'll have Russ take the drivers, and then we'll have Zach take Kumar.
Deal.
Okay.
All
Since
right.
they have the same name. Okay. Go ahead. Get at it, Joel.
So here we go. Kumar,
Yes, sir.
Jim, and Ray. Kevin, you guys out there? Nate?
Yep.
All right. What should you check to be sure it is solid, clear of objects, and securely bolted to the tractor frame? Is it A, the apron? Is it B, the kingpin? Is it C, the catwalk? Or is it D, the platform? Which one, Kumar?
The kingpin.
Kumar says the kingpin. Drivers. You need the question?
Catwalk.
Jim says catwalk. Ray?
I
Agree
say
with that?
catwalk. Yeah.
Catwalk. What should you check to be sure is clear? It is C, the catwalk. Ding,
Oh.
ding, ding.
Darn it.
0-1. Good guys. All right, Kumar. Question number 2. What transforms the steering column action into wheel action? Is it A, the suspension? Is it B, the steering box? Is it C, the steering play? Or is it D, the steering linkage?
Steering box.
Kumar says it's the steering box. Any guesses, drivers? Any for
I'm gonna
sure?
agree with him.
Jim says it's the steering box. Any other guesses?
I'll go with steering linkage just for the hell of it.
Linkage, because Kumar's answer is the only one that matters. What transforms the steering column action into wheel action? It is B, the steering box.
Yeah.
Good
Got
job. It's 1-1. Question 3. Here we go. What are the brackets, bolts, or bushings that are used to attach the spring or airbag to the axle and vehicle frame? Is it A, torque? Is it B, shock absorbers? Is it C, the mounting bolts? Or is it D, the spring mounts? What are the brackets, bolts, or bushings that are used to attach the spring or airbag to the axle and vehicle frame? Kumar?
Spring mounts.
Kumar says it's spring mounts. Does that ring a bell for any of you?
I really don't understand the question.
All right, so what are the brackets, the bolts, or the bushings that are used to attach the spring or airbag to the axle and vehicle frame?
Oh, okay. And what were the answers again?
Torque, shock absorbers, mounting bolts, or spring mounts.
Mounting bolts.
Ray says mounting bolts. And any other guesses?
I'll go with the bolts.
And Kumar is mechanically inclined. He says the spring mounts, ding ding. That is correct answer.
Yep.
2-1. How did you know that?
I just
Wait a minute, you don't. But
How,
you
how
said
could you have?
airbag.
Yeah, how could
You
you,
don't
have
use spring mounts
when you got
on airbag.
Here we go. Hey, I just
You
calls
gotta
it the
bolt
way
it.
as I sees it.
You got to
You
bolt them down.
Hang on, I would like
Yeah,
to hear
but-
this contesting here. Let's
Yeah,
talk
you
about
use
this.
use mounting bolts for the airbags, not spring. Anyways, yeah. That's why I
You
was
gotta bolt
confused.
the
With the, that,
You got
yeah,
to
that's why I was
bolt the
confused with the
hangers
question.
down, then you got to bolt
Yeah.
the mounting brackets down. So the bolts would be the correct answer.
Russ, you out there? I will find this question and we'll put an asterisk by it. I'll give you credit right now because that was theoretically the correct answer. Spring
Yeah.
mounts. All right, now Jim, you know what? We will find out. All right, question 4. What should be fully engaged with no loose or missing pins in the slide mechanism of the sliding fifth wheel? Is it A, the sliding pintle, B, the gap, C, the locking jaws, or D, the locking pin?
What was the question again? One more time.
What should be fully engaged with no loose or missing pins in the slide mechanism of the fifth wheel?
C.
Kumar's going with locking jaws. What do you say? Is it sliding pencil, gap, locking jaws, or locking pin?
Travers.
I'll go locking pin.
Ray says locking pin. Kumar says locking jaws.
Depending on what type of fifth wheel you have.
Jim, there'll be enough of that.
Joel's not.
Where's Henry when we need him? All right, the correct answer is locking pin. So ding ding, 2-2. We got a tie game going into question 5. Kumar, what carries air or hydraulic fluid to the wheel brake assembly? Is it A, the slack adjusters? Is it B, the brake chamber? Is it C, the brake hoses? Or is it D, the brake linings?
Brake linings.
Kumar says brake linings carry air or hydraulic fluid to the wheel brake assembly. Any more guesses?
Brake hoses.
Brake hoses.
Kumar, you're losing it. All right. Ding, ding, ding. The answer is brake hoses. 2-3. That's 2 for the bad guys, 3 for the good guys. All right. Question 6. Are we stopping there? Question 6.
We'll do another one.
All right. If the wheel has a sight glass, check that the oil level is adequate. Otherwise, look for leaks around the A, hub and axle oil seals, B, hydraulic brakes, C, the rims, or D, the slack adjusters.
Hub and axle wheels.
Well, I should have at least made it a little more believable. All right. Y'all have an answer.
Travers.
That's in rims. All right. I'm boring them to sleep. Kumar is 3-3. Hub and axle oil seals is correct. We have one more final for the tiebreaker. Here we go. Woo. For all the marbles.
Woo.
Woo. All right. Where is a pogo stick located on a semi-tractor? Is it A, next to the kingpin? Is it B, behind the truck cab? Is it C, under the battery box? Or is it D, parallel to the release lever? Where is a pogo stick located on a semi-tractor? Kumar?
A.
Kumar says A, a pogo stick's located next to the kingpin. Any more guesses?
Behind the cab.
Yeah, behind the cab.
And thank you very much,
Behind
Ding
the
Ding.
cab.
Thanks for coming, ladies and gentlemen. The good guys win.
Man.
4 games to 3. The pogo stick is it's a little mounting stick that holds up the hoses.
Apparatus.
Yeah, whatever you want to call that. Yeah. We'll spell it next
Apparatus.
week.
Darn.
Bonus question: spell apparatus. No, thanks for coming.
A-P-P-A-R-A.
No Googling.
T-U-S.
Jim, seriously, I will get back with you on that if you call me tomorrow.
So he's putting on
Maybe.
Jim to call him.
If I'm home. If I answer, I'll promise.
That's quite okay. I just think I'm right.
And Joel, I normally get your backdrop. What is your backdrop about today?
We didn't really have one because we just flipped a coin and said pick one. I didn't really have a theme. We couldn't get to it.
Zach was out, so he couldn't make it.
So we just I thought it was
Picked
cool.
a random photo.
Yeah. Al Pacino. You know, I meant to say Scarface when we were doing the countdown on the movies. I never did. I should have.
Oh yeah, that would have been a good one too.
Yeah.
Wow.
And did you cough at all? Because I didn't catch it today.
I only did when you weren't looking. I said
I
you looked
heard
away.
one.
And
You heard
There's
me.
one.
he's gonna call me out.
I mean, I want to see if it has anything to do
Trying
with
to
Russ.
improve.
No, you're doing a lot better.
My occupancy is getting better.
I can't wait for that video though. That's
His
going to
cough
be epic.
occupancy report.
He's
Even to
100%
do it
at
more
the
so
cough
you-
occupancy.
They're
Yeah.
recording the whole time. They're gonna at the end of the year make a song out of it.
Just
Yeah.
anytime there's dead air, just
Hey guys,
cough.
I got a guy that broke down. I got to bail.
All right,
Ah,
yeah,
he's gotta go
we're
to
heading
work.
out anyways. So
Yep, that's it.
all right,
You gonna
so
wrap it up, Kumar?
yep, yeah. So I'd like to thank our kind of sponsors. We got Truck Works Kenworth of Dothan, Alabama, Over the Road Apparel, work clothes for the modern day trucker, Prime Wellness and Performance in San Antonio, Texas, Al's Quality Market in Barberton, Ohio, the Gator Drive-Thru in Portage Lakes. Also, thank you to Henry Albert of Team Run Smart for coming on and chit-chatting with us. And other than that, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Talkin Truckin, no G's. Comment, like, subscribe. And that's all. Have a good one, everybody.
Russ, please turn yourself in.